Recently, President Trump gave a public commendation and appreciation to his youngest son, Barron, for the value he brought to the table during his campaigns and eventual election as the 47th president of America. Now, that boy is only 18 years old. I find it mind-blowing that at 18, that boy was so invested into his father's career, and he was able to bring a lot of value to bear on what his father was doing. June last year, I started holding webinars for parents on how to give their children a reading culture. And when I began to talk with parents, I found out that a lot of them have a pain. Most of them tell me that their children are addicted to the screen. In fact, one mother told me recently that his son, who is above 20 years old, does not want to do anything. He's not interested in doing anything other than playing video games. And there are so many parents who are complaining of the same thing. Now, that Barron is only 18 years old, and he was so invested into what his father was doing and brought a lot of value into it is highly commendable. So while the guests gave him a standing ovation that day, I gave him a thumbs up, and I'm equally extending the appreciation and the thumbs up to his mom and his dad, because they were the ones that gave him a favorable environment in the home from where he was able to get values into himself. It was the values that were imputed in him that he brought to bear on the table during his father's election. Yes, you see, every child comes into this world as a star, because children are made in the image of God. So every child that has ever come into this world came with values. They came with values to bless the world. They came with potentials, right? Because man is an extension of God. And there's a God deposit in every child that comes into this world. But what determines whether a child will be a star, or whether a child will end up at the dustbin, or a child will be an eagle or a chicken, what determines what becomes to the potential that is imputed into every child is the home culture, the home environment in which that child is raised. That is why for Barron to have brought value, that meant that the home environment where he grew up was one that they gave him an opportunity to absorb, values. Okay, so you see, sociology will tell us that culture is the way of life of a people. That's why you hear of Spanish culture, French culture. Even in Nigeria here, you will hear Igbo culture, Yoruba culture, and all that. See, my children grew up in Venezuela, which is a Spanish-speaking country. And you saw that all the children who were born to Nigerian parents living in Venezuela, they all spoke Spanish. They all ate, empanada, arepa, bojito, all the delicacies of the Venezolanos, okay? So they took delight in eating all those things. They danced salsa, they loved their clothing, everything. Why? Because children simply absorb the culture of the people that bring them up. Children grow up absorbing the culture of their primary caregivers. Now, just the same way you have Igbo culture, Yoruba culture, Spanish culture, that is how there is a culture in every home. Every home has a culture. There are homes where home videos are being watched every day. There are homes where it is Z-World, streaming from the television. There are other homes where it is martial arts, and there are other homes where learning is celebrated. So what determines how a child turns out, what determines whether a child will be a star or whether a child will be a giant or a dwarf, is a function of the home environment in which that child grows. And I'll tell you a story to illustrate this. There's a video I made recently. Please subscribe to my channel if you're a parent or an intending parent. You will love my videos. There's a video I released recently that I titled A Tale of Two Cousins. My son has a cousin who was born almost at the same time with him. You see, in my home, I'm a prolific author of so many books. I'm a book lover. So in my home, books are celebrated, and I put books in the hands of my children from the cradle. Okay, I start with board books so early. So by the time my son is 18, he's a writer. Okay, my son is a writer. Why? I exposed him to books. His cousin, who was born almost at the same time with him, grew up with a father who is a martial artist. So in their home, each time we visited the home, you will see martial arts streaming from the television. The home was filled with a lot of films that had martial arts in between. Now, by the time that child became 19, he had already become a black belt holder in martial arts. Why? That was the home. That was the environment he grew in. That was what he knew. Okay, so when a child is born, that child doesn't know any other thing outside the home where he is born. The home represents the world to the child. So anything and everything that happens in the home shapes who that child eventually becomes. I want to believe that in the Trump family, they exposed Barron to learnings, okay? They exposed him to value. That was why he was able to give value at 18. I want to believe that Melania put books into the hands of Barron, while other parents were putting video games into the hands of their children, while other parents were using screen to distract their children or to engage them, putting cartoons for them. This woman, Melania, put knowledge in his son's face. How does one explain that at 18, this boy, Barron, can speak 3 international languages? If not that the parents were intentional in giving him knowledge, in exposing him to knowledge, right? That's why I cringe each time I enter a home and I see adults watching home videos with children. Now, what these adults who are exposing young children to adult films don't understand is that a lot of filmmakers use their films to mirror the ills happening in the society. That's why when you're watching these home videos, you see a young girl wants money, he goes to patronize men. A young boy wants money, he takes to crime. People quarrel in videos and they begin to do destructive things, and then they expose them to consulting all manner of mediums. Now, the young person who is watching that thing doesn't know that it's drama. The adult watching it knows it's drama. He knows those things are acted, but the young child who is watching doesn't know. Between the ages of 1 and 7, the subconscious mind of the child is open, and he's absorbing everything happening around him, and everything he has absorbed is what he's going to use as a blueprint for life and living later in his adult life. Now, do you now begin to see why the hookup culture is on the rise? So I want to encourage you, if you're the parent here who allows your children to watch home videos while they are still young, you're making a terrible mistake. I never allowed anyone to watch home videos around my children when they were growing up, because I understand what I'm explaining to you here. So from today, don't do that again. Let's copy from Melania, who was able to expose the son to learnings. It's possible. It's very possible to raise stars if you can give the child a favorable home environment. You have seen how my son became a writer and his cousin became a martial artist. Don't even downplay anything that is happening in your home when your children are young, because those things are going to play out later in their lives, okay? So does anybody even wonder why this child, Barron, is a star? Both President Donald Trump and his wife Melania are Amazon best-selling authors. So I want to believe that when this child was growing up, he saw books in the hands of his father, he saw books in the hands of his mother, and it was easy for him to read books, because you see, our children do not do what we say, they do what they see us do. When I talk with parents, a lot of them tell me, I don't love to read. I say, there is a book somewhere that you will love to read. It was J.K. Rowling that said a person who doesn't read simply has not seen the kind of books he will love to read. I remember meeting one woman in Bagada several years ago, and he said for years her husband had wanted her to read, but that she was not interested until she came across my books, and she said that she was the one that was leading the pack in reading. Why? Because she saw the kind of books she would love to read. So every parent listening to me, I want to tell you that there is a book you will love to read. Enter the bookshop, look around, you will see a book you will love to read, so that you begin to read around your children. You put books in the hands of your children, expose your children to learnings, so that they themselves also will be able to come with value, just like Barrontrump. The world will equally stand up and give your children a standing ovation. Thank you for being a part of this beautiful video. Please share this video to a lot of parents who do not know these things I'm explaining here, so that we will be able to break the hold of the screen over the minds of our children. Till I come your way next time, remain richly blessed.